when I saw this double chip and turkey. That's the thing.
How you doing?
And it seems like whoever did other three guys, one of them is gonna get through.
Okay, for the whole thing.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're about to get started. If we can find our seats, silence our phones as I'm doing. And if we can close the doors on the sides and in the back, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Monday, the 23rd day of September in the year 2024. This is a City Council caucus meeting of the Jersey City Municipal Council. We had a scheduled 4 p.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 4:03 p.m. And we have a roll call for the commencement of this caucus. Councilperson Ridley is not here yet. Councilperson Prinzeri. Councilperson Baggiano.
Yeah.
Councilperson Saleh.
Here.
I think I'm.
Councilperson Solomon.
Here.
Councilperson Gilmore. Councilperson DeGise. Councilperson Rivera.
Yeah.
And Council President Waterman.
Here.
And I see Councilperson Ridley, so we have all 9 council members present at 4:03 p.m. On behalf of Council President Waterman and the members of the Municipal Council, in accordance with New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the posting on the bulletin board of the first floor of City Hall, the annual notice, which is the schedule of meetings and caucuses of the Municipal Council for the calendar year 2024, and filed in the office of the City Clerk on Thursday, November 30th, 2023. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, September 20th, 2024 at 12:03 p.m. to the mayor, municipal council, business administrator, corporation council, and the local newspapers, and posted on the city's website so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Council President, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Afternoon. First Director, Director Kears.
Good afternoon, President Waterman, members of the council. I have 5 items before you today for consideration. First one is item 10-5-24-712, resolution will authorize the award of a contract to Millennium Communication Group Incorporated, camera system replacement and upgrades to the Berry Lane Park CCTV video surveillance system. Total amount of this contract is $295,539.01.
Hey, Greg, I know at one point I guess the cameras were vandalized and they were in like that corner as soon as you come in from the park lot. Did we replace those but somewhere else?
The problem with that, Councilman, is that the company that installed them, I'll be very honest, they did a horrendous job. And a lot of the cameras were, in my opinion, substandard to what we're used to dealing with. We actually had an individual was able to steal a pole with a camera mounted on it. So what we've done is identified the locations where the camera should have been installed, and therefore this is where this is going now.
Oh, so you're replacing that? Okay.
Next is item 10-6-24-713. Resolution will authorize an award of contract to Millennium Communications to upgrade the visual management system associated with the Emergency Operations Center video wall. Total amount of this contract is $250,000 and is funded through the 2023 UASI grant. Next item is 10.7-24-714. Resolution will authorize an award of a contract to Millennium Communications Group for the purchase and installation of video surveillance cameras for the Journal Square area. Total amount of the contract is $597,696 and is also funded through the 2023 UASI grant. We're replacing the cameras in Journal Square. The original install date on many of them were 2009. So suffice to say, it's long overdue. Item 10-10-24-717, resolution will authorize the amendment of a contract to Gateway Incorporated to provide armed and unarmed security services at various city-owned locations. City needs to increase the contact with Gateway Security from $1,915,821.92 to $3.8 million, adding an additional $1,844,178.08. That's due to switching 5 armed guards rather than unarmed guards at City Hall, adding 2 armed guards to the Public Safety Complex at Annex 2, and adding 6 armed guards for 24-hour coverage to the city's parking garages at Annex 4. And my last is 10/11/24/718. Resolution will authorize the award of a contract to TK Elevator Corporation for citywide elevator maintenance for city-owned buildings. Total amount of the contract is $105,000 with a temporary encumbrance of $26,500. Have a nice night.
Dennis?
Council President, council members, I'm here to present agenda item 10-4, resolution 24/711, changing the custodian for the petty cash funds of the Division of Cash and Control. Okay, thank you.
John, take it.
So I see Christine Goodman is here. Anicia is here. You're not here to speak?
Take it from the top. There's no.
Okay. No worries. We'll do. Yep, we'll do. All right, let me get the camera loaded. No problem, Council Pres. All right, so right on to our first reading ordinances, item 3.1, City Ordinance 24-087 is an ordinance amending Chapter 188 to establish a local preference for affordable housing units created by local regulations and requirement. Item 3.
All right, can I?
Sure.
I should just explain that one just briefly. So what that would do is amend our chapter 188 to create a preference for Jersey City residents for affordable housing if the affordable housing is Jersey City created. So if it has state or federal funds, it doesn't apply because those regulations supersede ours. But if it's local only, it would apply. There's been some sort of legal questions around it. So just a couple pieces of information for everybody. The first is we did reach out to Fair Share and have spoken with them, and they are supportive of the change and think it's a good thing. Hoboken put in place a similar ordinance in 2019, and Newark passed one in 2023. And neither of those have faced any legal challenges. There could be a challenge under the argument that, it sort of ends up, treating one group of folks, people who live in Jersey City, more. But we think that as a diverse city, that by doing that, we are enabling and ensuring that everybody in our city gets access to affordable homes. So we're confident in that approach. We had a meeting with HEDC. They've asked for more time in terms of the implementation if the council approves it. So I think the earliest it would go into effect would be April of 25. That would allow them to update the portal, but they're going to give us an exact date in the coming future. And then they're asking us also to introduce, but have the second reading be our second one in October, not our first one. So we all have a little chance to look at it, and in case any amendments have to be made. But if not, it would move forward in October. But there's a quick overview of it.
So just for a clarifying question here. So for example, because the Bayfront is a
Yes.
perfect example, the city owns it. We are moving forward with that to attain the 35% affordable. That would be covered with the local preference. Something like Fairview Heights, which had a bunch of other stakeholders at the state and federal level, would not be able to have that preference.
So each project is going to depend a little bit on the financing of the project.
Okay.
So like let me serve an example of one that I know would definitely fall under 188 in a local preference. So when the council passed the amendment to the Tidewater redevelopment plan for the development over by the Golden Cicada, that's an inclusionary zoning site. The developer will build that. There's no city subsidy in that involved. So 188 would apply. Another version would be an affordable housing project that's only funded through the city's affordable housing trust fund. So then it would apply. Bayfront, my assumption would be they're going to get grants and credits from NJHMFA. So then the state rule would apply. And in that case, you have to follow the state regulations. So this wouldn't apply. So yeah, there would be anytime it's city created with no state or federal subsidies.
I just wanted
And trust fund.
to have.
Yes. It would apply for, yes, because that's our money.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, as the councilman's saying, just to clarify, this would apply to chapter 188, and 188 is very specific about, it's specifically non-funded, municipally mandated affordable housing. So for example, Bayfront, if someone did it just using the zoning that's in place, that it has to be 35, then yes, it would apply. But if they go and get funding from someone else and their codes do not require it, we let them do the compliance. That's how it works now. So we don't layer on conflicting compliance regulations. So if it has HUD money, if it has LIHTC money through HMFA, then we use, that's who does the compliance and not Jersey City. So we wouldn't be able to require that. It also just would, like, it's so complicated to be able to do the compliance layered that way. So our ordinance is written where it exempts projects that have funding elsewhere, like the Housing Authority and other federal funding. So working with the councilman, you know, this is the only way that we feel like we can do it, you know, and be.
But let me ask you about the IZO. Wasn't there some clause in there that they had to be like Jersey City residents at a certain point when we did that IZO? Because
No, but
saw
when
that
we
somewhere.
did have a Jersey City preference at
right,
one point in one of our ordinances, but
right.
it was removed due to, you know, other situations that we've seen that it didn't work out because it's in violation of the Fair Housing Act. But we
do.
Councilman went to Fair Share and discussed it with them, and the case law on that, through this conversation that we had with the law department and the councilman, focused on communities where they're using that tool, they're using that clause as a way to create exclusionary zoning, where they're trying to keep out residents from an area. We would argue with Newark and Hoboken that we are helping serve the goals of why they have the Fair Housing Act rules by putting that preference in place here. So we are taking a risk by
Yeah.
doing it. It's not a sure thing. But as the councilman said, he's would like to take that risk and, you know, in conversations with the law department, we think that there's a, you know, good chance it would be upheld, but we don't know.
But didn't we get sued from this before? I'm just trying to go back. I remember something about that. We got, you know, they took us to court.
We got sued on the inclusionary zoning ordinance, but it had nothing to do with anything about a local preference. That was about, I believe it was being able to put money into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and not build the affordable housing if it was deemed to not be beneficial to the city. And the court determined that that was a little too arbitrary. And so we rewrote the IZO with Fair Share to do away with that.
We got sued behind something like that because we tried way back to make sure Jersey City residents had preference.
And I think what Council President is referring to is we've had these conversations before, right? And we're
Correct.
always told that because of fair housing laws, which makes sense,
Yes.
that's something that we cannot do. And I think what Councilman Solomon is saying is, you know, there might be a risk, but so far other municipalities have done it. So it's kind of a risk we're willing to take. So I guess my question is, because I know a lot of these projects that have affordable housing in them still need certain tax credits from the state, et cetera. So is there a project that we maybe have already completed where this would have been helpful?
Correct.
Are we realistically going to be able to, you know, do some projects where the city?
It's all of the
Totally.
projects that the Division of Affordable Housing currently has affordable housing agreements with. So I can get you the exact number of what they're monitoring now, but yeah, there are a significant amount of units in the city. And all of those have to do with our local ordinances because we put ordinances in place that require affordable housing. Whether it's through redevelopment plan or, you know, zoning or through the IZO, all of those units, most of those units wind up not actually going and getting federal subsidies. And so those would all be subject to this. I can give you a sense from talking to Gigi what that actual number has been over the last few years. I know when she took over that office, they were not monitoring very many, only about 54, but now it's significantly more than that. It's hundreds. If not, I think we're close to over 1,000 now. So those would be able to be. Now, not every single one of those maybe has zero outside funding, but I think that there are a significant amount.
Could you get us the numbers on that? Because what I don't want to do, I don't want to give the public false hope, because once you release something like this, then they will keep calling us thinking that they have first preference over affordability.
We'll
So
get you
I really
those
want to
numbers.
get the number to see, and I remember going back that I know we got, they took us to court behind something like this, and they said we could not because it deals with discrimination. Now we can do it. So we're just trying to figure out really why. That's why. So,
I'll get you the numbers.
yeah, before. Doesn't make sense.
Okay, next is item 3.2, City Ordinance 24-088 is an ordinance amending Chapter 321 of the Municipal Code of the City of Jersey City.
Sean, is the forester is not here, right? So John, I guess this is, an attempt to rectify the situation with the, well, with the trees, right? Because I know at one, well, now, now the way the law is, they essentially can't really remove the tree.
This, I'll just jump.
Mary, any,
So, yeah, so part of this is the Shade Tree Committee is tasked with an annual review of Chapter 321, which are trees ordinance,
okay,
and the forestry standards, which is a separate document, but lives and works with the Chapter 321. So most of the changes here, for the most part, have to do with an adjustment in fee structure. There was also, John, you can maybe speak a little more specifically about the mandate that was, that we're talking about with the, but that's more
Yeah.
public trees versus private trees. So John, go ahead.
Yeah, the DEP put out a model tree replacement ordinance for towns that get a particular type of permit from the state when they don't have a 100% combined sewer system. We, for the most part, do, but there's a couple parts in town, like Newport, for example, that doesn't have combined sewer, and an issue to deal with pollutants getting into the groundwater. And one of the things that they'd made a requirement was this tree replacement ordinance or something similar to it, which also had the permitting of removing trees from private property, not just public. So that's a large part of what's gone into this.
okay.
So we're asking people to get a permit to remove the trees from their backyard now?
Correct.
Okay.
With the rationale being that it deals with runoff.
Stormwater retention and then some of the other goals that we're trying to get to that have, yeah, so like treading now between the public-private property space. But I do know also, and John, correct me that I'm wrong, that the DEP does give some latitude to municipalities when it comes to the permitting and treatment of private property.
It's none of the city's business on private property.
Is there a cost maybe I didn't read this properly, but is there a cost associated with the permit process?
For removal of certain trees, yes.
Like, I mean, from my yard, like when I apply for a permit, is there a cost for that specific permit or?
I believe it's attached to a specific number. I don't recall what it is off.
Okay,
Do it the first three, you didn't have to pay a fee, and then the fee comes in after that.
okay.
John, can I ask you a question? Why aren't the department directors here? Like the police department, and other departments, every month it's getting less and less. They're not showing up.
Councilman, we asked any of the representatives that have an item on the agenda to be present. So Director Kears had the cameras in particular.
The director cares had his problems. If we wanted to ask police questions,
I don't know if they were problems.
nobody
but,
here every month. And a few of us have questions to ask about.
Whenever they have to buy hoses or uniforms, they'll be here and you have an opportunity to speak to them about those items. Radios.
Joke.
Okay, next, on to our second reading ordinances. Item 4.1, City Ordinance 24-076 is an ordinance disestablishing the Jersey City Municipal Construction Board of Appeals. This was carried over from our September 11th meeting. Item 4.2,
What?
Oh, hold on, what number that was?
4.1, we're on. That's the ordinance this establishing the Construction Board of Appeals.
So if there are any questions about that, I can answer as best I can. But for the most part, we are moving forward with council to decide whether or not to dissolve the board.
Okay.
And it would move over to the county. And the county is required to take it.
Yay.
We're good?
So I guess,
We can always bring it back.
we can
want.
always bring it back to the municipality.
Yes, the municipality always has the option to bring it back. I would suggest, though, that should we go down that road, we have some meetings internally to put some stronger ethical guidelines as much as we can that do not run afoul of anything from the state statute, because we're mandated by for this particular board, we have to follow the state statute. There's not a lot of wiggle room here. But we can certainly, bring it back. That is not, this is not a one and done thing. The reason why I put it forward was because I feel like there's some inherent conflicts that are currently happening within this board. The council had considered it about a year ago. We gave it some time and space. They were not meeting regularly. They were oftentimes only considering old agenda items, not new items. So the idea of keeping it in Jersey City for the expediency of the cases to be heard hasn't really borne out in my opinion. And the number of cases has not been a large number of cases. Again, that was the other concern, was that the county would not be able to handle our caseload. And it does not sound like that is the case here.
Thank you.
Welcome. Councilman, anything else?
Okay, next, item 4.2, City Ordinance 24-077 is an ordinance to amend discarded site redevelopment plan, study area 5. Item 4.3, City Ordinance 24-078 is an ordinance amending Chapter 84, Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis, and to amend regulation of cannabis establishments and cannabis distributors.
I did want to ask if the council can entertain 2 amendments to this. First being, we allow the consumption lounges to be up to 2 per ward. And then the second one is that the people that are awarded a resolution of support from the city council would have to check in with the Cannabis Control Board. Like, they can't just hold a pin in the map for 2 years. Like, if we're gonna cap the number of cannabis retailers, that they would have to essentially check in with the cannabis board maybe every 6 months and say what stage they're at. Because a lot of them, I don't know if they've even opened or if they're just holding on to it, what they're doing. Like, we really need to have some sort of process to understand where they're at. Just to check in. I think to show that there was progress made, maybe that they filed with the building department or that they're getting their stuff together for the state. I don't know if that's something that the council would like to entertain. I would definitely pose that to everyone here. You don't have to say anything on the record, just, let it marinate, so.
I agree. And I think we did ask the director if they can send out communication. I know that they were working on that, but we didn't get any follow-up to the people or places that were approved. And I think that that's only fair that we have that written it, that after they're given approval from our board, that they have to maintain communication back to the board so we know where they're at. Because I do think a lot have left and no longer want to do business here. And it's kind of wonking our numbers up.
So the amendment, I'm sorry, the amendment that you're proposing, Councilman Saleh, I would have to know from our corporation counsel if that would be a substantial change to the ordinance, which would then require a re-advertisement, make it like a first reading again.
Let me ask this question. How would they return? 6 months? Who's responsible for it? Is the cannabis board able to do this? Because I know we talked about this before, about them.
And some are coming back for, I believe it's an annual review. So
Right.
what would be the difference between, is it because they're open? Is it because they're not open? And then also, how would we prioritize who gets an extension and who doesn't, what would they have to show us? And again, not that that's a bad idea, but I would just like to get a little bit more color around that before we move forward.
Yeah, and council members, we have not met on this for a long time. I know a few people brought up some questions or some changes they would like to make. If we want to get together, provide the changes to me so we can get an update, we'll have to table it and
Again.
bring it.
I'll circulate something, with a little more meat and potatoes than the statement. I do anticipate it being something like a reporting back to the Cannabis Control Board until they get that license, at least to tell where they're at in the process. And then once they get their license, it's once every year, essentially. So, but I will send some.
Board handle it.
Yeah, let them, they won't have any other, right now it's just to report back. Obviously, the city council can say later, like, hey, if you haven't done anything in 2 years, like you haven't shown any progress, you haven't went to the building department, you haven't like gotten your state approval, like, you can't just sit on the, what's it called? The local support that we gave you, like let someone else take it if you haven't done anything, absolutely nothing.
You can circulate some ideas too, because I know some applicants went to the state first, some went to the Cannabis Control Board first. So there's, not to say that it's not untenable, it was something we can certainly work through, but I also don't want to inadvertently penalize an individual versus a multi-state operator because of where they are in the pipeline. And I don't think that that's anyone's intent, but I just feel like these are all the things we're really going to have to dig through if that's something we're going to ask.
Absolutely.
I don't want to weigh in on your.
You can weigh in. It's all.
No. But what I just want to say is that, this has been tabled for a very long time. And I guess my request is that if there's something simple change you could make before Wednesday's meeting, if you can make that and still vote on it, and then anything more complex, like what you're proposing, maybe is done after that, and we just amend it, because what we hear from business owners that are trying to get open is that the current process is very onerous, and sending them back to the CCB at the end of the process, which is in the current ordinance, but not in the one in front of you today, as well as sending them to the planning board, has cost them a lot of time and money. And I get a lot of pleading emails, please help us. I think the owners really want those parts passed, because each month that goes by, they're struggling. So, I mean, I'm just, from what I hear, they really want this to get cleaned up. If there's any way to do it in pieces.
I agree with you, Director, and I will ask the Corporation Council, once I type this out and Corporation Council looks into it, if they say substantial change and we have to go back, I'm not going to go back. Like,
I'll do it right after.
Yes, because you're heard, and all those people, I know many of them, they are on the brink.
Okay,
so.
I just want to make sure.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So with that being said, if we do move forward with the ordinance, I believe that we would also be untabling 11.6, ordinance 23-078, because that's like a companion ordinance.
Correct.
If we move forward.
Correct.
Right? Okay, just wanted to make sure. Alrighty, next, item 4.4, City Ordinance 24-079 is an ordinance amending Chapter 287, Solid Waste, Article 1, Storage, Collection, and Disposal, and Article 3, Private Collectors. Item 4.5, City Ordinance 24-081 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 9, Parking for the Disabled of the Jersey City Code, designated a reserved parking space at various locations throughout the city. Stop me if you have any questions on a particular ordinance. Item 4.6, City Ordinance 24-082 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, amending Section 332-9, stop intersections to designate the intersection of Marley Avenue and Roosevelt Avenue as a multi-way stop-controlled intersection. Item 4.7, City Ordinance 24-083 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, amending Section 332-9, stop intersections to designate the intersection of Marin Boulevard and 16th Street as a multi-way stop-controlled intersection. Item 4.8, City Ordinance 24-084 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, Stopping, and amending Section 332-24, Parking Prohibited at Certain Hours at PS 16, 96 Sussex Street, and at Danforth Avenue Early Childhood Center at 160 Danforth Avenue. Item 4.9, City Ordinance 24-085 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, Stopping, amending Section 332-27, Angle Parking on Second Street between Provost Street and Warren Street. And item 4.10, City Ordinance 24-086 is an ordinance approving a 30-year tax exemption for a mixed-use residential project with cultural, education, and art space, and authorizing financial agreements with 808 Pavonia owner Urban Renewal LLC and 808 Pavonia 2 owner Urban Renewal LLC pursuant to the long-term tax exemption law NJSA 48:20-1 exec.
Yes, so Sean, John, if, I don't know if anyone else got it, but I was pretty busy this morning. I know the mayor did say he will send some, I guess, further documentation ironing out, because I know the state had allocated some money for the build out, and now subsequently we were using part of that money as the 10-year to pay towards in the 10-year proposal. So we can get that also. If someone can answer the question of when the white box is to be built out, does this white box include HVAC, electrical, and things like that? And the final question along those lines is, can we get some type of estimate of what it will cost, even if we look at other museums and look at square footage as it relates to the build out, just so we can have a comprehensive financial estimate, just to weigh everything together.
Sure, Councilman. Just for the council's discussion on Saturday, we had a meeting and the public had asked for additional information on the budget that was provided to you guys. So the mayor is providing an updated budget, and basically what that was is there was a line item in your budget called the city landlord operating contribution. And what that is, that's two tranches. That was the SID that we're discussing to establish that would benefit from the local economic driver of the museum, as well as approximately $1.5 million budget allocation from the municipal budget that would occur year over year. So we're going to break that down in addition. And just to clarify, Councilman, the state tax credit line item in that budget that was presented is the EDA funding, but we're going to circulate another item, not to change any numbers, but just to designate those EDA funds. That's what the tax credit is, because the words were used interchangeable, that tax credits and EDA, but we're going to clarify that they're both one and the same. It was about a $70 million tranche that the state had allocated. It's not to be confused with the $48 million that the city had provided, that the state had provided in their budget and then retracted on. These are state tax credits that were approved for the projects of this size and that are solidified. Councilman, just to, for your second point with the white box, we have done as an administration have done extensive work on building out what the pad side would look like, working with our partners in OMA and other consultants, and understanding what the HVAC requirements would be, the lighting, security, a lot of stuff that I wasn't even knowledgeable on, insurance for shipping expensive works of art, crating, all that type of stuff. We went through all those exercises. We now have all that information as institutional knowledge that is transferable from the old project to the new project. So we can give you a lot more information on that. But at this point, we're looking at the amount of square footage and how it would be structured as use of the space. But we know what has to be incorporated in the space already, and be able to provide you a little bit more information on that as well. And I think you had a third piece we were asking about.
Yeah, what exactly does the build, is it equipped with electrical?
Yeah, so all the connections and all that would be already facilitated within it, and then we would have to build out the specifics that we would need. So the electrical would be run to the white box, and then we would have to put the fixtures in and those items. We can have OMA provide more documentation.
And what happens if we vote tomorrow, Wednesday, it's approved and I don't know, something else happens and the project can't come to fruition? I don't know, the finance people they pull their money or anything happen. What happens with the abatement at that point? Is the developer allowed to sell the project to another developer? Does it reverts? Does it start back over with the process? What will happen at that point?
Nisi, do you have a little bit more?
But John, let me ask you something while they're coming up here. If that don't happen, because the councilman has a good point here, can't we put an additional whereas clause in there that say if it doesn't happen, we can build out a youth recreation center?
I think there's two different questions here, Councilwoman. I'll address yours, and then Jim will address yours, Councilman Gilmore. So, Council President, you're right. So the next step would be,
Right.
Once this is secured on Wednesday, right, we'll work with formalizing the agreement with the Centre de Pompidou entity.
Political suicide if you vote for it.
Go
Sorry.
ahead, John.
In the event that falls through from a marketing proposal for a museum and a cultural space, the city would still retain the rights to that area as a public good, and we work with the council on what that would look like. Public community center, partnering with the library or the public schools, but as of Wednesday, regardless of what Jim's going to talk about with the financial structure of it, the city, through the abatement, if the building is built, would retain that 100,000 square feet, 85,000 and 15,000 exterior for a public use that's designated by the city. We're looking to use it as a cultural arts center,
Right.
but it would still be within the hands of a public space with the city. And Jim will address the question about if the building's built.
So, hi, my name is Jim McCann from the law firm of Connell Foley. I represent the applicant for the tax abatement, just so you all know who I am. It was a while since the question was asked. What was the question?
Question was asked that if the financing falls through on the project, would the developer be able to sell the rights to the project?
So, in the unlikely event that were to happen, there's a site plan approval in place for the construction of the building already. If the financial agreement is passed by the city council, the financial agreement would be binding upon the developer. If the project fell through, unlikely for financing purposes, everything would still stay in place. Once the site plan is amended to incorporate the museum, yes, another developer could come in and complete the project pursuant to the requirements of the site plan approval and the financial agreement. So in the unlikely event that something fell through financing wise, but my client recently acquired the property, and so they're full speed ahead. If this financial agreement is approved, they will sit down with the museum folks and the city and continue to move forward with the project.
Oh, so the answer to my question is basically that another developer would be able to acquire, although you don't think it's likely that anything is going to happen, but the potential for something to happen and another developer to take over is there.
Yes, so and my client is a designated redeveloper under the JCA rules and regulations. They have a redevelopment agreement with the JCRA. So only a developer who would be approved by the JCRA could come in and take over the project. So the JCRA, what they typically do is they qualify redevelopers to make sure that they have the financial wherewithal and the expertise to do a project. So everything would stay in place. Another developer that could come along, they would have to be qualified by the JCRA and sign an amendment to the redevelopment agreement that says they're going to move forward with the project. So the JCRA would certainly have a say in any future developer.
Now, so John, or legal, this may be a question for you. And so let's say they get approved Wednesday, how long do they have to actually start the work? Because I know in my ward, like there were a lot of deals brokered and developers never brought said building to fruition and lots still stand empty now. I'm just trying to figure out at what point would it revert back to this project having to come to the council should it not come to fruition?
So the developer has, as I said, a redevelopment agreement with the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency. There's a schedule in the redevelopment agreement, and it does have to be amended because since the museum is now part of the transaction, the developer and the museum still need to sit down and figure out the finer details of what would be actually in the white box. But once that is done, my client's going to start the first phase of the building in accordance with the first phase of the project in accordance with the redevelopment agreement in the spring of 2025. So next year to start the project.
For the second tower,
So the second tower would come after that, but I believe the schedule tentatively, depending on what's worked out with the museum, the second building would start approximately a year later. Maybe a little bit longer, but approximately a year.
correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that the reason why we had to do this yesterday was because finances was dictating the shovel going in the ground in September. That's what.
Well, there's demolition that has to be done, site prep, but actual construction of the building would still take several more months.
Councilman, Jim was being a little too literal. Right, John? With the financing and the projects getting underway, the entity had already had plans to get underway now. We asked them to stall for a few weeks to get this idea on the table of the potential of a pilot and the cultural space, but they're well on the way of, they have all their approvals, they're working through their financing, and they have some demolition and site prep work to get shovels in the ground in the next few months.
They had permission to build before this project came, correct? That's what you
They should be doing demo right now, but
Right.
hit pause.
I understand that they have permission to build as of right, whatever.
Right.
My concern is that the reason why we have to vote on it immediately is because whatever work that you guys need to do as it's demo or whatever it is, you're not going to start that work until you have this agreement ironed out.
Need you on the mic.
Our local pilot ordinance, it's because of our local pilot ordinance that requires this vote prior to them starting construction. That's why it's not just about what they want to do or don't want to do. It's that they can't start building number one until this vote happens. If they start building number one before the vote, they're no longer eligible for a tax abatement.
What about the demo though? If that's part of the build out,
I don't know the specifics of the law, but my understanding is you have to start the project, it would negate their ability to get the pilot. So they need everything in place so that they could get going on construction. That's what the timeline is all about. That's what the rush is about. They're ready. They would already be in the ground if it weren't for the fact that this, opportunity with the museum came up. They have their site plan approval and they can't pull permits before they were to get a tax abatement.
Well, what about forget the build out part, because the demo is gonna take what? 2 months, a month, what?
So I'll explain to you the timing of the demo, and I'll explain to you how the demo is related in building 1 to how you construct the museum in the building 2.
I apologize. If you just identify yourself for the record.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
John Kushner, KRE Group. I apologize.
Thank you, sir.
In order to construct the museum to the requirements and specs that the Pompidou needs, from what we've been told from their consultants and their team, correct? They will need about 10,000 feet of subcellar space in our building 2. In order to access that, it will come via building one's subcellars. So we actually do need to know what we're doing in building two before we begin building one. They're connected. The subcellars are connected, Mr. Gilmore. They're connected. So you enter the subcellar of building two by going down into the subcellar of building one. You've seen in many buildings in Journal Square and in the towers that we built right around the block, our buildings are connected above grade, right? You've seen the white towers, the Journal Square project. The parking for those three buildings were built in phases above grade. In this property, we are building our parking below grade and they connect below grade. So we have actually held off the process for the last 2 months while in discussions so that we know how far down to go and what building to build. Now, in order to build a building, we need to take down a garage, correct? For building one. What's outlined in here, and my lawyer will probably correct me if I'm wrong, hopefully, is that we would begin, if approved on Wednesday night, we would get into active, real discussions and come up with a exact like development plan, right, for the museum. That is outlined in here, correct? There's a
Right.
schedule.
The white box is already defined in here.
The white box is
It's the
defined
bid out.
and the schedule, Mr. Gilmore, I know what you're getting at. You want to know when are we going to begin and when is the project going to start and when is the project going to be done and when will people be using the museum, correct?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to know, because like I said, during the presentation, part of the rationale or reasoning for the rush is because you guys had to start right away. So I'm just
Right,
trying
so
to.
we lined up financing for a building. But in order to start that building, we need to know what's going in building two because you might not see it above grade, but these buildings are actually connected below grade. Okay, and part of the white box definition that's in here for the museum is below grade. And those two buildings will actually connect below grade. So I can't start building one without knowing what I'm doing in building two. Once I start building one, if I don't provide for it in building two, it doesn't really work.
Well, how long does it take to demo the parking lots?
I'll tell you, our proposed schedule is that right now we're in front of the city with an application for a demo permit. As soon as we have that demo permit, that garage has been standing there for probably 75 years. I don't suspect it'll take more than 30 to 60 days to take the actual physical garage away. Our plan would be to start construction the moment we complete demolition. I suspect that will come in somewhere around the 1st of January, if I had to take a guess, given our experience.
So it's first of all, you gotta wait for the permit to take the garage down. Then once you get the permit.
We've paid for that permit and we've applied for it.
No,
We've hired a.
It's still a waiting process though. You ain't gonna get it tomorrow, right?
I'm told it's imminent any day.
That's what I'm saying. We don't know.
We've been issued a bunch of denials from your building department. We've answered them. And we're in dialogue with them and we should know within, I suspect it'll be by the end of October at the latest that we can knock that thing down.
All right, so the end of October, and then it's gonna take you upwards of 60 days to knock it down.
What I'm hearing is there's two different
Councilman, I think
plans.
Anesia though hit on the real point. The law surrounding tax abatements is that you have to have your financial agreement signed and in place before you start the project.
Oh, before you start demolition?
Before you start the project.
Anything.
What point because I mean, I'm not fancy in these terms. I just know straight terms. So when does the process start? When you say when the process start, does that refers to the actual construction of the building, putting something in the ground, or does it start when you start to knock the site down?
So
Demolition,
Demolition starts the process?
part of this
Right.
project.
That's the process.
So there's no, it says project, but demolition is part of the project. So we need to put the financial agreement in place before we start the project.
Getting construction financing has been incredibly difficult. If you speak to anyone who does any building or anything in the city, it's like getting a colonoscopy nowadays, just because financing is the interest rate is higher. The turnaround is now 12 months versus 18 months. So the timelines and the return on the investment that the banks are requesting is a shorter time period. So what I'm hearing is there are two different things that can happen, and you're basically waiting to see what happens Wednesday in order to adjust your plan. And you can't move forward with your plan, and already you've spent a month to 2 months, 2 months delaying in order to have some definitiveness from the city as to whether or not the abatement's going to go through. And because that's going to dictate how you build the building, because all the buildings are connected, essentially.
You're exactly correct.
Okay,
And
I just
like
wanted
the
to
colonoscopy reference without
a doubt.
put to sleep.
Yeah, without being put to sleep. That's what I'm hearing
It's been
across
rough,
the city. So it's
We're ready to go. So yes, you hit the nail on the head with your description though.
okay.
I just know one thing, if it get approved and y'all don't start doing demolition until January, then then we have a major issue because I'm under the feeling that I'm being rushed to make a judgment on a project that's full of so much uncertainty. Even the meeting questions were asked, and it's just so much uncertainty. In fact, I'm even scared to embark on a journey with so much uncertainty. But I mean, that's my position on the project.
John. Oh, you forgot it's 2 Johns down. I forgot it's 2 Johns down.
I can give you a legal opinion too, Council President.
You know what, I know there's uncertainties, you know, with the Pompidou and all of that there, because based on, what I heard the meeting was about. But I want to know, can we add a whereas clause? And because if the Pompidou doesn't come, I just want a clause in there because we doing an ordinance, because if this passed and we give the tax abatement, I want to make sure that the youth, you know, kind of benefit from this. So I want that whereas clause in there as that it can be a youth center if the Pompidou don't materialize, because I really think we need things for our youth too, because it's a lot of still negotiation going on. We don't know, but I understand they have to, you know, get moving. I understand that these buildings connect, all of that I understand, but what we don't understand that we're not clear with, and we hope it happens, that the Pompidou do come, but there's still negotiations going on. But I want it in writing, another whereas clause, if it do not, that site that we have can definitely be used for some type of youth center. That's all, because it'll be ours. We'll own it, right? And so why can't we have a youth center up there or youth recreation place for the kids, which to me is an ideal location. It's right on the square. Parents can get to and fro. Because if we're going to give a tax abatement, I think if that doesn't happen, I just want a backup plan.
Yeah, so Council President, it's already written in there that.
I want it specific.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just emphasizing that. I got you, Council President.
That's all.
No, so I mean, just for the entire council's knowledge, that the exemption wouldn't exist without dedicating that space for public use and for a public person and a public purpose, excuse me. And you know, they would default on that. I mean, basically the entire thing would fall apart without that being written in stone, but we can emphasize the purposes of a public use with your request, Council President. So it's already there, and we could define what the public use would be, including youth activities and other public.
Correct.
Can we,
I just wanted to define, because, you know, I know.
We can work beyond that.
Council.
And it's not a substantial change either.
Right.
I'm for the youth and everything, but I am also really hesitant to tie a future council to just one public use. It can be, it's a large space. It could be youth, it could be seniors, it could be.
We're going to identify what we
There's 100,000
as public uses.
When you look at a city this size, I know we do have senior buildings. We only
Okay.
have 2, which we need more. We do need more, but right now we really have nothing for the youth in a city this size. That's why. That's why I really want to be specific, because we have nothing. I get calls all the time. The parents have no place really to take their children. A city this size, we don't have a youth area, a recreation place. We don't have it. We don't own anything. We have 2 senior sites we do own. That is the city, but we really don't have anything for the youth because recreation down there on Caven Point, city do not own it.
Okay.
They don't own it.
Right.
All right. So
No.
what else do we have with the youth?
You know,
Nothing.
Sorry.
Right. That's my point.
it's a shame that we only had one meeting on this, and that was on Saturday. And I wish every one of you sitting at that table and every council person was at that meeting on Saturday. Because the people who spoke out, they spoke out quite elegantly. So,
Council President, that'll be the 11th whereas clause, just when we do the amendment.
So, John, question, and I don't know if you or the law department can answer this right now. We might have to look into it. But I was at that meeting virtually on Saturday. And one of the things I heard a lot of people talking about was, of course, affordable housing, right? Now, there is money going into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund from this project, correct, with the abatement. Is it, I don't know what the exact laws are, because I know we have a Affordable Housing Trust Fund board, et cetera. Is it possible so that we know that this is like real money that we're going to see the results of right away? Because I think that was one of Councilman Gilmore's concern, is the money is just going to be sitting there floating. Is it possible to earmark those particular funds for a project that's happening currently to get some affordability in a project immediately? And then maybe I would guess then that money would kind of delve into what Councilman Solomon is now proposing with us being able to dictate certain units when they get city funding. So I don't know, based on the laws, if that's possible or not.
Yeah, Councilwoman, we just want to look at the bylaws of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund before we
Okay.
give you an answer, but we'll have it by Wednesday.
Thank you.
I just want to, for conversation points, that there will be roughly $1.9 million from this project going into that Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And just for clarity on the project, the approvals were done pre-IZO or anything like that. So this is part of the agreement that's in place, but there's nothing that would mandate us to prompt any additional on-site. It's pre-approved, yeah. So we'll get you an answer on dedicating the $1.9 million to a program, but we don't feel comfortable saying that right now until, yeah.
Can I just want to confirm, just back and forth with the councilman, but, right now, the city's plan is to, fund the full cost of whatever the build out would be. And we don't have at this stage any cost estimates of what that would look like. I just want to say if those two statements are accurate.
Yeah, so we know what the white box, what the value of the white box is going into it, and we know what OMA has presented as to what the needs are for facilitating that white box. So we have an idea of what has to be put in, and then we're going to work on the exact cost of what the exact build out would be.
Okay, you have a ballpark figure?
Because I think is there any range you can provide us at this stage, even just like a price per square foot, right?
I don't, Anicia, yeah, I'll follow up with OMA before Wednesday, Councilman.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so after the second reading ordinances, we'll have a public hearing on the 2024-2025 West Side Avenue Special Improvement District Assessment Roll and Budget. Do have the director here if anybody has any questions regarding the West Side Avenue Special Improvement District. Hearing none, we have our regular public request for a hearing. At this moment, we have 43 speakers. Next are petitions and communications, items 6.1 through 6.44. And then we have our Office of Communications, 7.1 through 7.4. Report of Directors, 8.1 and 8.2. Our claims, and on to our resolutions. Item 10.1, City Resolution 24-708 is a resolution honoring Aaron Jones Williams and Rescue Treats. Next, item 10.2, City Resolution 24-709 is a resolution accepting the assessment roll of the 2024-2025 West Side Avenue Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City. Item 10.3, Resolution 24-710 is a resolution adopting and ratifying the 2024-2025 budget of the West Side Avenue Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City. Items 10.4 through 10.7 were touched on earlier. Item 10.8, Resolution 24-715 is a resolution authorizing the execution of a license agreement with New Jersey City University for facility rental and usage. Item 10.9, Resolution 24-716 is a resolution authorizing the payment of a.
Stacy's here.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon. I'm here to present both 10.8, and then if I have to wait for 10.16, I can come back.
No, just do them both, Stacy.
Okay, great. This is a resolution authorizing the execution of a license agreement with NJCU for facility rental and usage. This is for our senior program. This is paid for out of the Hudson County SSBG grant funds. We host 2 days a week, swimming, track, and other athletic activities for seniors. And then I have 10.14, a resolution awarding the negotiated contract pursuant to the NJSA 40A 11-5 1S to Green Bucket Compost LLC for the marketing of recyclable materials that includes the provision of food scrap drop-off spots. I'm representing this for the Division of Recycling because Sonia and I have been working closely together on the composting effort, and Sonia is at another meeting right now. There were 2 proposals that came in. Green Bucket Compost LLC is local and was the most affordable.
Question.
Yes.
Parts of the proposal are like blacked out like a CIA document. Do you think we could get the actual?
Was that done by you guys?
What part was blocked out, Councilman? So we do have to remove federal employee identification numbers and proprietary financial information, but without it right in front of me, I couldn't.
The critical measures of success, like there was one portion that was like blacked out on page 7 of 69 on the bottom.
I have to.
We could sidebar about it.
We can get you whatever the law department allows us to provide.
Okay.
You all can obviously see the original documents. There's just probably information that was sensitive on there for the public. I'd have to take a look at it, though. I don't recall offhand.
Okay.
Anything else?
Jimmy?
Evening, council members. I have item 10.9, resolution 24-716. It's a resolution authorizing the payment of a claim from the CarePoint Health Medical Group for providing medical care services for injured employees on the job. This is in a sum of $174,999.96, and it was for the period of January 1, 2024 to June 1 of 2024. Any questions? Thank you for your time.
Okay. Next, items 10.10 and 11 were touched on earlier. 10.12, City Resolution 24-719 is a resolution authorizing the purchasing agent to sell various motor vehicles at public auction. Item 10.13, Resolution 24-720 is a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City in support of principles and convention to the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women in Jersey City. Item 10.
Whitney, did you change that clause in there? They wanted to make sure they said partner with.
We did. Yep.
Okay,
Updated.
thank you. resolution.
Okay, item 10.14 was touched on earlier. Items 10.15 and 16, Corporation Counsel, you want to take them?
Sure. We'll provide an update offline to the council, but 10.15 is just continuing representation of a litigated matter where there's a conflict and we need outside counsel. 10.16 is just continuing litigation as well, but we'll let you know where they're at.
And last but not least, 10.17, Resolution 24-724 is a resolution reappointing Victor Niegrong Jr. as a member of the Jersey City Ethical Standards Board.
Victor, are you able to answer a few questions? What do you think?
Is your most current resume attached to this resolution?
Do you want to come up to the podium, Victor?
It's a reappointment. It's a reappointment.
It's a reappointment, but his resume and the letter from the mayor is attached.
Ethical questions only.
But no ethical questions for him at this point. That has to be done during the Ethical Standards Board meeting. But with that being said, does anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah, Sean, I just want to say something. Saturday, we had the meeting for 4 hours at the college. And I wish everybody here was at that meeting because out of about 100 people, 54 got up and spoke, and I'd say 50 of them were quite aggravated that there was no further discussion on this issue and what's going on. And I think it's a mistake. And I'll tell you, it's a lot of people are irritated.
Okay, so I have a motion to adjourn, excuse me, at 5:08 PM by Councilperson Saleh, seconded by Councilperson Rivera.
I think you got it reversed,
I
but
do? Okay,
I'll take it.
I'll fix that.
Okay.
So motion to adjourn made by Councilperson Rivera, seconded by Councilperson Saleh at 5:08 PM. All council members present by acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
We are out of here at 5:08 PM. Thank you so much, everyone watching at home and everyone present here. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Have a great night. Stay safe.